She punches a tunnel in the mother-loving ground all the way to the docks. I'm sorry, I just had to get that one off my chest. Welcome to the first ever Stanky Rant, where I just talk scriptless about shows I feel really, really strongly about. And there's no recent show I feel more strongly about than Marvel's Miss Marvel, which is without a doubt one of the worst written shows I have seen in the past forever. It's actually really rare for me to find something that I just genuinely hate. Even when it is something really bad, I can still find enjoyment in it. Heck, I watched Titans, and at the very least, that show had the Hawk and Dove episode. But Miss Marvel is genuinely bad, and the weirdest part about it is that it didn't even start off that way. Now, I like to be fair in these reviews, so let me talk about stuff that I liked in the show. I like the fact that they made the show. Representation is a topic that I would love to tackle in a different video, but I can appreciate when they try. I just wish that when they tried a little bit harder when given the shot. Oh, and also spoilers for all things Miss Marvel, but if you haven't watched the show by now, you probably weren't going to, and you definitely shouldn't. So yeah, I liked the first episode, which now takes me into the problems that I have with the show. I liked how the show was just kind of about this nerdy high school girl who gets superpowers and wants to use them for good. Telling the story through her eyes and how she sees the world was fine. It was simple, but fine. You could tell the lead actress was excited about being in this show and being this character, and I was cool with that. The issue with that being, this is the only episode that feels that way. And I get that 23-year-old black man probably wasn't the target audience for the show, but I'm honestly not sure who the target audience even was. Who was meant to enjoy this trash? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. The show starts off good, decent, but it's very rare that I've seen a TV show with every single episode get progressively worse. More derailed, less centered, more stupid, worse looking. I mean, in just every way, the show just got worse from episode 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, which ultimately culminates in this finale that I don't even have, it's just bad. It's just so bad that I couldn't even laugh. I was wowed by how bad it was. Okay, first off, she has 3 love interests in the show. The show is only 6 episodes, and she has 3 different love interests. One of them being her best friend, the second one being the son of the villain, which I'm about to talk about because God help that villain, and the third being some boy who just appears and like is her age, so she falls in love. And I get that she's a teenage girl, but seriously, like every boy in the show, she just has to start having a crush on, which is fine if you want to give your main character a bunch of love interests, but she doesn't end up with any of them. So this love dodecahedron that they created goes nowhere. So why is it in the story? Why is it a part of the plot when it does not matter at the end of it? I usually don't like to talk about the actors and crew that are a part of a show because I don't usually blame them for the finished product of the show. But there was a standout for all the wrong reasons in this show, and you never want that character to be the villain of your story. Because if we, the audience, can't like or agree or fear or even understand or even want the villain to be on screen, every time they are on screen just hurts. The show legitimately feels like it has no threat. And that standout was this lady, Nimra Bucha. And just let me say, I have not seen her in any other show or movie or even TikTok, so I don't know her acting ability. What I do know is that if I were to see her and only base her skills off this one performance, I would rather hire a high school theater kid. She portrays the least threatening, least interesting, and dumbest villain I have ever seen in one of these Marvel productions. Yes, that's right. Miss Marvel, you get the award for the worst villain ever. And I'm sure not all of that is her fault, but boy, she didn't help. The first villains of this show are these people called Jinns. They're like evil demon genies from this other world who have been stuck on Earth for thousands of years and need Kamala's powers to get back home. The problem with that being, if they return home, the world will die. Why? Because unexplained science. But the Jinns don't care, because they just want to go home and are seen willing to do anything to get back there. Najma, the main villain, is even shown willing to go as far as leaving her only child to die to get back home. That is right until she has the opportunity to do just that. Right as she is about to get home, mission complete, GG, game over, we did it, Kamala hits her with the greatest line of all time to rationalize with her. Like if you were to take Steven Universe and fusion dancing with Naruto, you still wouldn't have someone who could reason as strongly as Miss Marvel does here. And what does she tell her? She tells her to stop. She has a son. And by golly, it worked. The last time words stopped something so catastrophic from happening, Superman said Martha. And Kamala's words were so strong, they even convinced the villain to sacrifice herself to save the Earth, the place that she has been trying to leave for forever. She dies to save it. And yes, all this means the main antagonist of the show is dead by the middle of episode 5. Like, seriously, if I could convince you to watch any part of the show, it would be this scene. Just go to episode 5, somewhere in the middle of the episode, and just watch how this takes place, and just be flabbergasted by how bad it is. And that's just one of the many horrible character arcs of this show. Like the arc of her mom, who is like a strict Pakistani mom who just loves her kids a little too much, so she's overprotective, so she pushes them away instead of bringing them in. But by the end of the series, she's the exact opposite. And like, I'm all for learning and growth and understanding, but the 180 flip of her character is so jarring. The only good character arc of the show comes from her dad, who is also the best character in the show, so it just kind of adds up. There's another part in the show that I just couldn't get. Because when you kill your villain in episode 4 and you still have 2 episodes left, you have to come up with something for your characters to do. So episode 5 is this flashback episode where the writers of this show, the writers who couldn't even handle teenage crushes well, thought they could tackle time travel. They tried to do a time travel episode. The whole series, Kamala's grandma, who is deemed kind of crazy for believing in superpowers and stuff, which is weird since like these people see the Hulk every day at this point, but just forget that. And when Gran was a child, she was separated from her dad while trying to get on a train to escape their country. And whenever she recalls this story, she always talks about how there was a trail of stars that led her back to her dad. But in episode 5, Kamala goes back in time somehow. And when I say somehow, I really mean that because I don't remember how or if it even was explained how she goes back there. But she goes back to experience this moment. And it shows the trail of stars was actually Miss Marvel's powers all along, which means her grandma was saved by her granddaughter 50 years before her granddaughter was even alive. And on paper, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. She went back in time so she got to save her grandma. But then you think about it for about 5 seconds, and immediately you just start having a million questions that'll never be explained or expounded upon. And that's just real nice. So, hey, thanks, writers. And all of that would be trash TV. But we haven't even gotten to the finale yet, which is without a doubt the worst part of this entire thing. This mess broke me. So after all the conflicts have been solved, all the arcs are basically complete, and this story literally has nowhere to go, we hit the finale, where every ounce of sensibility in this show is lost. So now that Najma is dead, that just leaves her son Kamran, who doesn't even know that she is gone, in Jersey City, where he's being chased by the DODC. Which, by the way, Marvel, can we please stop using these people? Because every time y'all put them in something, they're just kind of trash and annoying. So while running away from the DODC, Kamran joins up with Kamala, her best friend Bruno, and her other friend Nakia to escape. And where did they escape to? Their high school, which they just very easily got into, where they are met by her older brother and her high school bully turned fangirl. Why is the fangirl there? To make TikToks after school by herself. I'm not even going to touch it. And why is the older brother randomly there? I'll let him tell you that one himself.
Sounds good. We'll keep him busy while you run out the back.
What are you doing here?
How did you get in here?
Bathroom window. All right, I went to school here too. Mom sent me to watch out for you.
Yeah, that's right. He's here because the story wants him to be. He somehow snuck past a full-blown superhero military defense force to sneak through a window because his mom told him to. And after they begin to enact their perfect Home Alone style plan to once again stop a superhero military defense force, and yes, it works perfectly. Also, there's this point in the show where the racist lady in charge of the operation says we need to get these kids, but without lethal force. Like, they make a whole point of making a scene that tells us they're not going to use lethal force, and then they immediately go straight up school shooter on these kids, walking in on them with weapons that would murk them. Not to also account for the actual guns they then try and blast them later with. Like, seriously, writers, if you're not even going to go by the things that you write, all you have to do is not write them. Had you had not told us no one should be using lethal force, I wouldn't be so confused by the use of only lethal force. So all of this continues, all of the chaos and stupidity until the climactic final battle, if you could even call it that, where Kamran decides he needs to use his newfound powers that he's got because his mom somehow gave them to him when she jumped into the end of the world to fight back. And even though he's talked about like he's doing the wrong thing, he's actually in the right to try and defend himself because they've been trying to kill him for like the past hour. But no need to worry about any of that because Kamala just uses her super talk power to calm him down and convince him to leave. But when pinned down by a hellfire of bullets, and only protected by the magic of Miss Marvel's light bubble. How will he escape? I'm sure you're asking. And that's because right in this moment, in the heat of battle, for the first time in the show, Miss Marvel is about to unveil her new power of tunnel traversal. Yeah, that's right. She punches a tunnel in the mother-loving ground all the way to the docks. The tunnel even comes with ladders, apparently, because look at the way he enters this thing. And that was when I lost it. I gave up and I marked this show up as straight tomfoolery. -2 out of 10 stanks. Don't even think about touching this thing. But why did I even want to make this video? Just to poop on the hard work of a bunch of people who I'm sure were not paid enough for this? Just so I could complain about something I already knew? The reason I made this video was because I saw this. And I couldn't believe it with my own eyes. So I went digging and wanted to read the reviews because I refused to accept this. But when I clicked the supposedly 301 critic reviews of this show, all I was shown was 2. But a show being worth a 97% should be getting a lot of praise. And considering how one of the 2 shown reviews here gave it a 3 out of 5, I think the mouse is up to something, y'all. But what did you think? Have you seen Miss Marvel? Am I tripping? Am I over-exaggerating? Or have you watched it and you agree? Because you should agree. But if you like this video, please leave a like. Maybe subscribe if you haven't. Come around because I'm going to be making a lot of videos like this and others. So I'll see y'all in the next one. Deuces.